Every morning at 6 a.m., 81-year-old Tom would sit by his living room window with binoculars and a worn notebook, watching the birds that visited his backyard. When his 9-year-old grandson Aiden came to stay for the summer, he thought his grandfather's hobby was boring. But as Tom began sharing the secret stories behind each bird's journey, Aiden realized he was receiving the most beautiful education about courage, freedom, and the art of finding home that any child could imagine. But the true magic of these bird observations hadn't even been revealed yet. On that hot morning in June, 9-year-old Aiden Miller wasn't happy at all as he carried his suitcase to Grandfather Tom's house. His parents were going on a 2-week business trip, and he had to spend this time with his grandfather. "This is going to be so boring," Aiden murmured as he settled into his room. Grandfather Tom was 81 years old and a very quiet man. He didn't watch much TV, didn't play computer games, and barely even talked. Aiden was afraid to think about how he would spend these 2 weeks. The next morning, Aiden woke up late. When he went downstairs, he couldn't find his grandfather. He started searching the house and found him in the living room, sitting by the window. He had binoculars in his hand and was carefully examining outside. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Tom answered without turning his head. "Bird watching." "Birds?" Aiden was surprised. "Why?" "Because they teach us a lot." Aiden looked out the window. He saw ordinary birds. Sparrows, blackbirds, pigeons. What can these teach? Tom smiled and extended the binoculars to Aiden. "Sit next to me. Let me show you." Aiden reluctantly sat next to his grandfather. Tom gave him the binoculars. "Do you see that red bird in the tree?" Aiden looked through the binoculars. There really was a small, red bird. "I see it. That's a red cardinal. Male. Now watch carefully, see what he does." The bird was hopping from branch to branch, looking for something. What is he looking for? Food for his mate. Cardinals are very loyal birds. They stay with the same mate for life. Really? Yes. And when the female cardinal lays eggs and sits on them, the male constantly brings her food, even if he has to go hungry himself. Aiden listened with interest. "So what does this teach?" Tom looked at Aiden. "What love means. When you love someone, you do everything for their well-being." At that moment, Aiden felt something different. This wasn't just ordinary bird watching. His grandfather was telling him something. "Grandpa, do you do this every morning?" "Yes. For 50 years. 50 years. Every bird has its own story, Aiden. And there's something to learn from every story." Aiden asked curiously, "What stories?" Tom smiled. "If you want, I'll tell you all of them." The next morning, Aiden woke up early. He went downstairs to find his grandfather and found him in the same place, in the same position. "Good morning, Grandpa. Which birds will we watch today?" Tom was happy. "Ah, you woke up early. This is wonderful. The most beautiful birds appear early in the morning." Aiden sat next to him. Tom took the old notebook from the table. "What is this?" "My bird journal. I write every bird I see here. Which day, what time, what it was doing." Aiden examined the notebook. It was written very neatly. Each page had different bird species, dates, and notes. "Wow, this is very detailed." "Because birds are very important, Aiden. They're like nature's calendar." "What does that mean?" "Look, open that notebook." To March's page. Aiden opened the page. It said first swallow arrival. What does this mean? Swallows are migratory birds. They live in the south during winter. When spring comes, they return north. When the first swallow arrives, it means winter is over. So they're like messengers? Exactly like that. Nature sends its news through birds. At that moment, a bird sound came from the window. Tom immediately took the binoculars. "Ah, perfect timing. Come look at this." Aiden looked through the binoculars. In the pine tree in front of their window was a small, very active bird. "This is so small, and it moves so fast. This is a hummingbird. It drinks nectar from flowers. It's so small. How can such a small bird fly?" Tom's eyes sparkled. "This is a very beautiful lesson, Aiden. The hummingbird is one of the world's smallest birds, but also one of the bravest." "Why brave?" "Because it migrates thousands of kilometers every year. This tiny body challenges vast oceans." Aiden was amazed. "Really?" "Yes. And you know what? Sometimes it flies alone, separate from family, from the flock." Tom stopped and looked at Aiden. "What does this teach us?" Aiden thought. That size doesn't matter? Very good. Yes. And also, sometimes being brave requires being alone. Being alone? Yes. Sometimes to do the right thing, you need to separate from the crowd. Like the hummingbird. Aiden thought about these words. He remembered the bully friends at school. Sometimes he wanted to stand up to them, but couldn't find the courage. Grandpa, is it normal to be afraid? Of course it's normal. Courage isn't not being afraid. It's doing the right thing even when you're afraid. The hummingbird must be afraid too, but it still flies. On the third day, Tom had prepared a special surprise for Aiden. Today we have a very special day. We'll watch the goose migration. Goose migration? Yes. Wild geese will pass over our city. Hundreds of geese, together, in V formation. They went out to the garden early in the morning. Tom had brought a small chair for Aiden. Now we'll wait patiently. Migration doesn't always happen at the same time. Aiden was getting impatient. How long will we wait? I don't know. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 2 hours. 2 hours. That's too long. Tom smiled. Aiden, the most beautiful things come to those who wait. Birds teach us patience. An hour later, Tom suddenly stood up. Do you hear that? Aiden listened carefully. A strange sound was coming from far away. What is this? The sound of geese. They're coming. A few minutes later, a perfect sight appeared in the sky. Hundreds of geese, in V shape, flying very orderly. Wow, this is incredible, isn't it? Now pay attention. Do you know the secret of the V formation? I don't know. The goose flying in front breaks the air resistance for those behind. The ones behind fly more easily. What happens when the front one gets tired? Then someone from behind takes the lead. They take turns leading. Aiden was mesmerized. This is so smart. Yes. And this gives us the most important lesson, moving as a team. How so? Aiden, none of us can succeed alone in life. Sometimes we lead and clear the way, sometimes we support from behind, but always together. Aiden thought while watching the geese. He remembered group work at school. He always preferred to work alone. Grandpa, I don't like teamwork. Why? Others are slow. I can do it faster. Tom looked at Aiden. Well, look at those geese. Which one flies fastest? Aiden looked. I can't tell. They all go at the same speed. That's why they can fly thousands of kilometers. Everyone goes not at their own speed, but at the group's speed. On the fourth day, Tom took Aiden to a special observation point in the garden. Do you see that tree behind the fence? Yes. A pair of blackbirds is building a nest there. I've been watching them for 2 weeks. Aiden looked carefully. There really were 2 blackbirds in the tree, carrying twigs and leaves. What are they doing? Building a nest. Both male and female are working. How long does it take? About 2 weeks. Every day, patiently, twig by twig. Aiden watched the birds. They were working very slowly. They would bring a twig, place it, then go again. This is so slow. Why are they working so slowly? Because it needs to be perfect. This nest will protect their babies. If they rush, it might collapse in a storm. So patience is important. Very important. Sometimes the most beautiful things take time. Tom looked at Aiden. Are you a patient child? Aiden was embarrassed. No. I always want everything immediately. That's normal. But we can learn from birds. They never rush. Why are they so patient? Because they know that rushing means making mistakes. And in nature, making mistakes is very costly. Aiden thought. He remembered always rushing through his homework and making mistakes. Grandpa, can I learn to be patient too? Tom smiled. Of course. By watching birds. On the 5th day, it was raining. While Aiden was bored inside, Tom wanted to show him something important. Aiden, look out the window. Which birds are outside in the rain? Aiden looked. Most birds had taken shelter, but a few were still standing on branches. Those crows are still outside. Right? Crows are very resilient birds. They can stay outside even in storms. Why? Because their adaptation ability is very strong. They've learned to adapt to difficulties. What is adaptation? Adapting to changing conditions. For example, when it rains, crows compress their feathers, becoming waterproof. Aiden listened with interest. So what does this teach us? Life doesn't always have beautiful days, Aiden. Sometimes we experience storms. But what's important is learning how to withstand those storms. How? Like crows. learning to be flexible instead of trying to be strong. Tom approached Aiden. Have you ever experienced difficult times? Aiden thought. Last year Mom and Dad were fighting a lot. I was very sad. How did you feel then? I was scared, in case they separated. But they didn't separate, did they? No. They're better now. Tom smiled. That's adaptation. You got through that difficult time. You became stronger. Really? Yes. After the storm passes, crows fly stronger. On the 6th day, Tom took Aiden to a special place, next to the small pond in the park. There are very different birds here, said Tom, both wild and domestic. Ducks were swimming in the pond, but there were also cages in one corner. Look at those in cages, said Tom. They're also birds, but very different. Aiden looked at the birds in cages. There were beautiful, colorful parrots. These are so beautiful, and more colorful than the wild ones. Right? But there's a difference. Can you guess? Aiden thought. The caged ones can't fly? They can fly but don't, because they're used to the cage. Why isn't the cage good? Tom pointed to the wild ducks in the pond. Watch those ducks. They go wherever they want. The caged ones are only in that small area. But aren't the caged ones safe? They give them food, protect them. Yes, they're safe. But they're not free. Tom looked at Aiden. Which life is more valuable? The safe but restricted one, or the dangerous but free one? This was a difficult question. Aiden thought. I don't know. Both have bad sides. Right? But you know what? The most important thing is being able to choose. The caged bird has no choice. So freedom is being able to choose. Exactly. And sometimes you have to make difficult choices. Aiden thought about situations at school. Sometimes he chose the easy way. Grandpa, I sometimes choose the easy option. That's normal. But we can learn from birds. They make difficult choices every day. How? Where to fly, what to eat, which tree to perch on. Every decision is vital. On the 7th day, Tom told Aiden they would make a very special observation. Today we'll watch baby birds. In the garden, they went to the observation point Tom had prepared earlier. About 3 meters away, there was a nest on a low branch. There are 3 baby sparrows in that nest, Tom whispered. It's time for them to learn to fly. Aiden looked carefully. There really were small, fluffy sparrows in the nest. They're so small. Can they fly? They're still learning. Their parents are teaching them. At that moment, adult sparrows came. They perched next to the babies and were doing something. What are they doing? Bringing food. But watch, they're not feeding the babies. Why not? Because the babies must learn to fly. For this, they need to be hungry. Aiden was surprised. Isn't this cruel? No, this is love. If they always fed them, the babies would never learn to fly. A few minutes later, one of the babies gathered courage and came to the edge of the branch. Look, one is getting ready to fly. The little sparrow was very scared. It stood trembling on the edge of the branch. It's very scared, said Aiden. Yes, the first flight is always scary. What if it falls? Maybe it will fall, but it will try again. Suddenly, the little sparrow spread its wings and jumped. It flew a few meters, but then fell to the ground. It fell. Aiden shouted. But look, what is it doing? The little sparrow got up and tried to fly again. This time it stayed in the air longer. It's trying again. That's courage, Aiden. Getting up again after falling. Tom looked at Aiden. Have you ever fallen? What do you mean by falling? Failing. Trying something and not being able to do it. Aiden thought. Yes. When I was learning to ride a bike last year, I fell a lot. Then what did you do? I got up again and tried. There. You were as brave as that sparrow. On the 8th day, Tom wanted to give Aiden a different lesson. Today we'll observe eagles. Eagles? Are there eagles around here? They live in the nearby hills. Sometimes they come here. Early in the morning, they climbed a high hill. Tom had brought his powerful binoculars. Why are eagles special? Asked Aiden. Because they're considered the king of birds. Very strong and smart. Half an hour later, Tom got excited. There. Over there. Aiden looked through the binoculars. In the distance, an eagle was soaring with its large wings spread. It's so big, yes, and very strong. But watch how it flies. Aiden watched. The eagle wasn't flapping its wings at all. It was just soaring. It's not flapping its wings, because it's using air currents. Maximum distance with minimum energy. This is so smart. Yes, the eagle teaches us efficiency. Strength isn't always the best solution. Tom looked at Aiden. Do you walk slowly to school or run? I run. It's faster. But do you get tired when you run? Yes, a lot. What if you think like an eagle? Aiden tried to understand. I use less power, but move more smartly? Exactly. Intelligence is more valuable than strength. At that moment, the eagle suddenly dove. It caught something and rose again. What happened? It caught its prey. Eagles are very patient hunters. They wait for hours, then catch in one try. So when patience and intelligence combine, that's the most powerful combination. On the 9th day, Aiden was a bit sad. Tomorrow his parents would come. These beautiful days would end. Grandpa, this was so much fun. I wish it lasted longer. Tom smiled. But you're taking what you learned with you. That's more valuable. How will I use what I learned? There's a bird story for every situation, Aiden. When you're struggling, be loyal like a cardinal. When you're scared, be brave like a hummingbird. In teamwork, share like geese. That day there was a special visitor. A beautiful, colorful bird had come to the garden. What is this? Asked Aiden. Tom got excited. This is very rare. A mockingbird. It imitates other bird sounds. Indeed, the bird was making different sounds. Why does it imitate others? Because its adaptation ability is very developed. It can use different sounds in every situation. Is this good or bad? Good, of course. Being flexible is being strong. Tom looked at Aiden. Do you also use different voices sometimes? What do you mean? Acting completely different at home, completely different at school. Aiden thought. Yes, I'm more relaxed at home, more shy at school. That's normal. Like the mockingbird, you're adapting to the environment. The 10th day was the last day. Aiden's parents would come in the evening. Tom had prepared a special gift for Aiden. This is your bird observation notebook. You can keep your own notes. Really? Thank you so much. On the first page of the notebook was a note Tom had written. Dear Aiden, birds give us the most beautiful lessons. Don't forget these lessons. In every difficult situation, look at the sky and remember, freedom requires courage, love requires patience, strength requires wisdom. Aiden read with tears in his eyes. Grandpa, I won't forget these lessons. I know, and I hope you'll teach these lessons to someone someday. That day they did bird watching together for the last time. Aiden now knew that birds weren't just birds. They were teachers. When his parents came, Aiden told them everything. Mom, birds teach so much. Grandpa taught me cardinals' loyalty, geese's teamwork, blackbirds' patience. Mom Linda was surprised. Where did you learn all this bird knowledge? Grandpa is the best teacher. Tom smiled proudly. On the way home, Aiden started watching birds from the window. Mom, look at that crow. It's flying despite the storm. That's adaptation. Adaptation. Yes, adapting to changing conditions. Among his family's surprised looks, Aiden continued to tell bird lessons. When school opened, Aiden had become a different child. His friends noticed the change. Aiden, you've changed a lot this summer. You seem calmer. Aiden smiled. I learned to be patient. Like blackbirds. Blackbirds. Aiden started telling his friends bird stories. Although they were surprised at first, they later showed great interest. One day, the bully Michael was bothering a small student. The old Aiden would hesitate to intervene, but now he remembered the hummingbird. Small but brave. Michael, leave him alone, he said. Michael was surprised. Don't interfere, Aiden. I may be as small as a hummingbird, but courage isn't measured by size. This strange answer surprised Michael so much that he backed down. Aiden's teacher, Miss Johnson, had noticed his change. Aiden, you're very different this semester. You seem more mature. I learned a lot from my grandfather during the summer. What did you learn? How to do bird watching. But actually, I learned life lessons. Miss Johnson listened with interest. This is very interesting. Would you like to share with the class? Aiden got excited. Of course. The next day, Aiden made a presentation to the class. Birds are the best teachers, he began. Cardinals teach loyalty, geese teach teamwork, eagles teach wisdom. His friends were mesmerized. They had never looked at birds this way. Aiden, you're a real bird expert, said Sarah. No, I just learned to listen. During autumn break, Aiden visited his grandfather again. This time he brought his own binoculars. Grandpa, I'm going to tell you what I learned. Tom was very happy. I'm listening. When I saw bullying at school, I remembered the hummingbird and intervened. In group work, I remembered the geese and cooperated. Wonderful. You really learned. That day they observed new birds together. Aiden wasn't just listening anymore. He was also making comments. That sparrow's baby is learning to fly. It requires courage. Those crows are flying even in a storm. Their adaptation abilities are strong. Tom listened proudly. You're now a real ornithologist. Years passed. Aiden was now a high school student. He still visited his grandfather whenever he could. One day his little cousin Jake came. Aiden, this child is very naughty. He gets bored easily, said his mother. Aiden smiled. I'll handle it. He took Jake to his grandfather's garden. Jake, do you like bird watching? Birds? Boring. Aiden had heard exactly the words he had said years ago. Let me tell you a story. The cardinal story. And Aiden started telling Jake the lessons he had learned from his grandfather. Tom watched them from the window and smiled. When Aiden entered university, he chose the biology department. Why biology? Asked his advisor. I want to understand nature and animals, especially birds. At university, he took ornithology, bird science, classes. His professor was very impressed. Aiden, you've learned a lot at a very young age. My grandfather taught me. He's my best teacher. He chose the effect of bird behaviors on human psychology as his thesis topic. After graduation, Aiden started organizing nature camps. He taught bird watching to children. Children, do you know why cardinals are special? Because they're beautiful? Not just that. They teach us loyalty. Every lesson, he shared what Tom had told him. But now he was also adding his own experiences. One day, 7-year-old Emily asked, Teacher, can birds really talk? Aiden smiled. They don't talk, but they say a lot. If you know how to listen. Today, Aiden is 30 years old. He has his own children and teaches them the same lessons. Grandfather Tom is 91 years old, still watching birds. But now he gets tired. Grandpa, I'll never forget what you taught me. I know, Aiden, and you're teaching others. This is the most beautiful legacy. Every morning, Aiden takes his own children to the window. Look, children, what is that cardinal doing? Looking for food. Yes, but for whom? For his family. Exactly. That's what love means. Aiden still wakes up to bird sounds every morning. And every time he sees a bird, he hears his grandfather's voice. Every bird has its own story. Birds give us the most beautiful lessons. Freedom requires courage. Love requires patience. This story teaches us this. The biggest lessons sometimes come from the most ordinary places. Tom's bird watching wasn't just a hobby. It was a life philosophy. And Aiden's discovery shows that the right teacher can turn everything into a lesson. Because in the end, the most beautiful teachers can be around us, even in our winged friends flying in the sky.